Hi, and welcome to another Flutter class session. And today we're going to continue from our previous class, which basically we stop at page number 140, where we allow for user to registered user to insert a new product into database. And upload the product image into the server directory. But after we have that, what we need now is to be able to list all the product that belong to the user back to the seller screen here. So as we know, we have two main screen here, which is buyer and seller screen. And for seller screen, this is where we, as a buyer, as a seller, will sell the product, and they can add new product here. And once they are able to add product, the product basically will be stored into database, and basically the content from table products, which is here, table products, and all the product that belong to the user ID here will be visible, or will be able to be listed through this page here. So we're going to list all the items belong to this user ID in what we call as a grid view structure. However, we have to load the data first, and to load the data, we have to access the seller screen dot, which basically handle this page, right? So this page here basically handled by seller screen dot. And to be able to load data when the page appear, we need to create, or we need to initiate load product instructions or methods from init state. So as you can see, we have an init state here, and this init state contain load products method, which basically available in here. So this is the product method, and the product method basically contain a series of instructions. And then as you can see here, I already included a comment, and you can use the comment to understand what each of the section referring to. So as you can see, the load product consists of the following method from here to here. So this method basically start with check if the user registered or not. So just by using widget.user.id equals 0. But from the book here, as you can see, the implementation start from page number 142. So the number 142 basically load a product by using this method. However, there's a slight changes that are introduced to the code. So here you can see the load products method check for user email. But here I use user ID check 0, which is will always indicate that this is unregistered ID. If it is unregistered ID, so we can see there's a toast there, and it will always return and quit this method. However, if the user ID is not equal 0, the instruction will continue and execute this get request. The book here basically, however, use post array, which actually not suitable for RESTful API, because in RESTful API, if you are dealing with a query, usually we use get array, and if you want to store data, so we use post array. But here, the example use post array. But it doesn't mean that the code it will not work. It will work. Just that we just use post array for this load product. However, for the example that we have here, the codes that you see here, here I use get array. But for get array, you have to understand or you have to be able to create the URL request, because you need to concatenate, you need to combine the passing parameter or the parameter required for the post get array to work. So for example, here, the get instruction from for the HTTP basically will use URI parse, but there's no body section compared to post array. So here you can see that a config.server, a server directory, and then the loadsellerproduct.php, where we need to create the user array, the user ID array, because we want to pass the user ID for the backend to process. So our backend here deals by this file called loadsellerproducts.php, and will require a user ID. And if there's no user ID given, it won't be able to work. And then once we pass this parameter, or we execute the HTTP GET, then it will return return with a response. And down here, this is where we process the response by using this if statement. So this if statement, later on, we're going to look back once we work the backend code. So for the backend, we have this PHP instruction script. There's a slight changes for the MyParsa version 2, but it's basically follow the same format, except that this basically work for post array. But the one that I built here, this is by using the get array. So as we can see here, the get array and the post array, they are basically the same, apart from the post and get function here. So the first thing that we need to do is to get the user ID from the user request, and we might need to add the is set check first, so that if something goes, or if there's no user ID passed, so there's something that we can do. And here we want to check the get array, so instead of post array. Okay, so if there's no get array pass, or if you want to further check for the user ID first, and then we respond with fail and no data. All right, so this is just a simple safeguard for our backend script. All right, so once we have that, so we get the user ID, and then we include database connector, and then we create our SQL query here. And the SQL query basically select all from table product, and then we have the where conditions here, where user ID is basically user ID, because we just want to load user ID for that particular user only. All right, so once we have that, so the if statement here, this is very, very important. So you need to really focus on this, and how we are able to fetch the data and then return back to the application. And here we have to understand that compared to login, where we only need to load only one data, here we need to load multiple data. So as you can see now, we have 4 data. So we need to be able to load 4 data. So to be able to load 4 data, definitely we're going to need to build what we call as a JSON object array. So we can have this multiple object array, which consists, or which will be able to load multiple data, compared to just loading one data. We can just use single array. But here we need to use multiple array. So once we execute the SQL query here, what we have is an if statement to check if there's any result returned from this query, from this result query by using MySQLi object-oriented function. And then we define the array here. So there's an array here called product array, products array with products, and then we just define the array. And then we traverse the data from database by using this while statement. All right, so this while statement will traverse each line or each row here. So if there's a 4 row written, it will travel 4 times. So we can see here the row result which fetch association. So for every row, so this is for every row. So for every row, create this temporary array called productList, and this productList will create their own array item, and the data will be retrieved from this field from database. So as we can see here, product ID, there's a product ID there, user ID, there's a user ID there, product name, product description. So you can see that this is all table, the field name here, all basically belong to the right side here. The left side here basically for the array name. So this is the key that we use to define for our JSON array object later on. Okay, left side is the key, the right side is the data. So usually I just use the same name because I want it to make it easier later on to access and even to create the product object. All right, so now we have all the data. We'll traverse all the data. For every row, we're going to push into our array here. Okay, so that it basically create multi-dimensional array. Okay, so it create multi-dimensional array, dimensional array. So once it complete its traversal, and then we're going to build a response array. So the response array basically consists of two sub-array here. So status for success and data, basically the product array that we built here. Okay, so it basically contains all the data which push into this multi-dimensional array. Okay, so it keep on building this response, and then as usual, we send back to the JSON response, and the JSON response will use the JSON encode to encode the data into JSON or proper JSON data format. So this is basically a load seller product that we retrieve data from database, multi-line or multi-row data. So let's see the result. So if we straight away use the instruction here, because this is just a get array, so we can give it a try. So let's say the following. So we can see, let me just increase the size here. So if you give it a call here, mypasa v2 php loadsellerproducts.php. So we pass this data through our URL, and this is get array. So get array, this is basically how we pass data. So user ID equal 1, it basically return JSON data as this. Okay, so if you enter 2 or 12 or whatever, it will basically return nothing because there's no user ID 12. So if you try not to give any parameter, it will basically return status fail. But here you might need to add, because this is just a warning. Okay, so if there's a warning and your application later unable to deals with the warning, even though it's basically written this, we can deals with the warning by inserting error reporting, set the error reporting to 0. Right, so if we don't report any error, so as you can see, if I press now, it didn't return any error at all. So that basically just a simple trick. If anything, it's not error in a way, it's just but might be better if we can deal through inside here through try and catch. Okay, even though it's basically catch by this, but the PHP basically report the error because of the way that how PHP works. So we just put into the codes here, error reporting set to 0 means that the level 0, there's no error reporting. But you have to be very careful. So if you use error reporting here, anything that is wrong within your codes, it will not report any error. So that can be a little bit troublesome. So only use this if you sure that what you're doing. All right, so once you have the data, so like say like go back to the data. So we have this data. How do we check the data? So we can just copy all and then put into our JSON editor online. So the JSON editor online. So this is basically the data that, so if I paste here and then copy to the right and copy to the left. So this is basically the data. So as you can see here, this is a multi-dimensional data. So the data basically consists in this JSON data structure. The first key basically just to indicate if the operation is a success or not. The second part here basically consists of the data itself that basically being put into array object. So the array is product array, and then the data is within each of their own curly bracket. Okay, so you can see there's a 4 data here, and it basically consists of key value data. Okay, so now you have the data. So what you need to do with the data, so usually, because the book here, it basically didn't describe about that, because here I use what I call it just dump everything into array. So if you notice one of the instruction here, okay? So you can use this method also, because this much easier method to use. Because we just dump everything into product list array that we have defined down here. Okay, so you have your product list, and then this is just a standard list. Okay, list, not object list. Okay, so the one that we have here later on that we're going to use for the MyPasa version 2. So this is by using list array object. So list array object is going to be a little bit different than list, just a normal list array defined here, because here we can just extract all the data from the products array and dump into product list. It can be easier to use, definitely, but in the long run, usually we use our data model, and then the data model basically will be part of our array object. Okay, so either you want to use this method, should be okay, but I would prefer to use the new method, because this is not new method, but I use this now for any new application that I built. So I move on to this type of data model. All right, so now we need to create data model. Next, because here I don't use any data model for product. I believe I use it in the buyer tab, but here I did not use that yet. I haven't yet updated on this, but definitely you can use this method also because it's rather simple to use. All right. So now next we need to create object. So as usual, you can use another tools called JSON to dot. So if you paste the, sorry, not that one. I need to get the codes. Basically the code is in here. I'm supposed to copy this and just that one, because this is a multi-dimensional data. So name the class product, so generate dot. Oops, no. I need to take a little bit more than just that. Product, or maybe just inside here. Just inside there. Is it? No. Might need to take a little bit more. Products array. This is product array, so might need a little bit more. Right, so generate dot. Why there's syntax error? Hold on. This is our JSON data. So this is definitely JSON data. So if I take it from product here or from product, oh, maybe from this array here. but this one just maybe too many already. Just want to have one only. Will be able to work. This one contains syntax error. It's not supposed to. If I take everything and dump it into here, can generate the whole class, but it will basically create more than what I needed. Okay, so there are two classes here, but for this, you can see it a bit more complex, but what I need now is only this section here. Okay, this section here just for the product class data model. So the data model basically defined here. Now you can see I already have it defined here. So the data product basically consists of all the variables here, the product constructor from JSON and to JSON. Usually we don't use to JSON much. We just use from JSON unless you want to convert to JSON data. But usually we just use from JSON to convert JSON data that we retrieve from API and then convert that into a list array or array. All right, so that's what happened here. So once we have the data and then the data model, the product data model there. So first thing first, we need to define our array list object. So now you can see this is basically the way that we define our list object array. So compared to the one that I use here, it's quite simple, just list, product list, and then the array definition there. But here you can see list, product, product list, product. This is basically how we define or we create list object, which will consist of array of our object product. So definitely you need to import object product. As you can see up here, there's our object product there. So once we have that, what we need now is to wait for the response and then check for the response status equal to 100. So if the response is okay, means that the server basically responds to 100, which is okay. We start by decoding the response body. So and then dump into JSON data. So once we dump all the response body into JSON data, we can check the data array one by one. So we can check the first data that we retrieve is the status data. We want the data to be success. So if the data is success, which is checked through JSON data, then we can extract the data. Okay, we can extract the data. So you can see here the data extracted by using JSON data. So dump into extract data. So once we dump into extract data, that we receive all the data for products, and then we can just get the each of the product. But here we check first if the product is not equal null, the array is not equal null. So if the array is equal null, it's not equal null, then we start adding all the data into list object, okay, list object array. So here you can see product list that we already defined up there. So this is the definition for, or the completion of the array object definition. And then we traverse the extract data product array for each data. We have, in this case, we have 4 data. Traverse product array list and add the list object array list into product list. So here just a normal list array instruction to add item or to add object into their array list. So you can see a product list add, and then you can see here product from JSON, and V, this is basically the data that we have here. So this is basically one of the methods or one of the way for each that you can use for list data. Okay, you can just use for each. It will automatically traverse the data, and then each of the data will be assigned to V or whatever that you define here. And now you have the data here, so you can test if the data exists or not. You can, like, for example, if you want to check the product list item inside here. Okay, you can just print out and then product list, and then give the index and then the variable that you want. Okay, so like for example, let me just pick one. So let's say index 0, but of course you need to traverse that. So if you push dot there, you will definitely see all the variables that you can retrieve. Okay, so those are the variables that you can retrieve. So you can just print out the value and then should be able to retrieve each data. The title center here, this is basically just to indicate that it's found. If no data, it will indicate not found. And then if something else, it will say no product found. So this is basically this right in the middle here. Okay, so that is what it is. And then here, this is basically just to refresh UI. So now you have a load product, and then we call the load product whenever we click on the seller page. So you can see here, found, so which means that it basically completed this section or this instruction. Okay, so now we have load product. So we are able to load products belong to this user ID here. But then what we need now is to list the data into our page here. So as this, let me just show you this, as follows down here. All right, something like this. So we want to be able to list data as follows by using what we call as a grid view, right? So so what we need now is to go back to our UI. So our UI basically just implement nothing here, just a simple center. So this is where we're going to work our data. So let's get back to our grid view here. So the grid view basically check for the list. So for now, we just maintain with simple implementation. So now, so we're going to work by using these methods. Okay, so the body section here. So the body section here will implement if statement. So if statement for what? If statement for the product list. Okay, so we can see the product list here. We'll check for the product list is empty or not. So the product list should be L capital, product list. Our product list here, this is the product list. Okay, product list. Okay, so now we start with to check if the product list is empty or not. Check the list, the product list list object array is empty or not. So if it is empty, so it will respond to the first instruction. So here what we have just a simple center, not double, just single. What we have here is this. It will display center, but if it is the other way around, so we have this column there. Okay, so we're going to implement that straight away from there. Basically remove the part. Just want to take this part here up until here. Right. Okay, so yeah, there's a two option here. If the product list is empty, then display this. If the product list is not empty, then display this section. So that's what it means by this. We'll check based on this product list is empty or not. So if I save on this, should be not be able to see this anymore. So now this is the second option here, which implemented through column. All right, so let's continue from there. What we have here, because we wanted to display the data, So if, for example, like we go to buyer and then we want to go back to seller, you can see there's a loading there, but then because the database connection is very fast, so it will unable to show the first section yet because product list is no longer empty. So now we need to move to the second part of the UI here, which basically what we have is a padding there. So let's try not to start with padding. Down here we can have grid view, count. Yeah, maybe we can just straight away use expanded from here. If you want to have something something else, yeah, we can use expanded for this, but I'm not quite sure. Oh yeah, I just implemented yesterday, but this is for later on. So I'm going to work one by one. So I'm going to have expanded so that I can have the rest of the UI. So I'm going to use expanded inside here, but for expanded will require let me just straight away use grid view. Okay, so straight away use grid view for the expanded. And then the grid view count will require a few other parameter, which the axis count here set to 2. So this is where we set our grid axis view. And then children for the grid view right now. This is children for the grid view implemented through grid view. So we put it inside, and then we close, see the closing section there. So we have this open, and then we end it with just comma. And it's not just comma. Okay, but here we need to return. This is not product list dot length. So but here the list.generate will require return data. So we need to return, let's say here we return, return card. Just a simple card for now. Okay, so just return card. So as you can see here, we have a return card, and inside card we can build our columns. Let's see just a very simple data that we want to be able to list here. Inside card, let's say we have child and then simple column. So inside this column, basically will contain data first for now. Okay, so data first for now. So to be able to retrieve all the data, so we can just use product list index and then object. Sorry, I need to use text. As for now, we just use text. We just use a simple text definition here. Okay, so index product list index dot. Let's see just a product name. Just put a product name first, and definitely we need to convert this to string. Okay, so that's basically the first data. So let's say we add the second data inside our columns here. So let's say product, we have product name. Let's say product price. Okay, so product price, we can always concatenate with RM. So definitely it will require for interpolation. Okay, so RM. So if you save on this, you should be able to see the data already. Now there you go. Okay, so you should be able to see there's a 4 data there. And the data basically contain 2 information of the product name and also the product price. All right, so everything, all the data that we have from database for this particular user basically listed through this simple grid view. By using the cross-axis count set to 2, you can see there's a 2. So if you want to change to a different value, let's say just only 1 data, so you should be able to see 1 data only per per item there. So depend on your screen width. So if you try to put like 3, so it can be a little bit crowded, but that basically allow you to do that. But you have to make sure that the screen width basically allow you to have all the data, because later on we're going to need to have our image to be to appear here. All right. So you can see how easy it is to display data into Gridview. Okay, so now back to buy data listing. The rest here, this is all basically just if you want to display image. So here I use inside here, there's a cache network image. So let me just take this cache network image and put it inside, and I hope we can get it to work. But I'm not quite sure if the cache network image is already here or not. I already installed the library or not, because that will require a library. So let me just put that up here. I don't have the cache network image, so it means that I need to import cache network image. So cache network image. So this one will require, I forgot the pubdev library. So just install this. Right, but I might need to do reinstallation. View command palette, pubs sys, put the names cache network image. So let's get it into install. And then import the library if the library is already available. So if not, we might need to, okay, we have that here. And this one will require interpolation. Screen width, this one, if we want to implement screen width for the image, let's say, let's start with 150. But definitely we need to implement that later. Okay, now here, this one, I just want to, what I'm going to do is to display image inside this section here. Okay, part of the section here, I'm going to use this to display image. And I'm using what we call as a cache network image wrapped into flexible widget. And the cache network image will require the following parameter. Image URL, so where the location of the image. So here we need to check properly the location of the image, or else we would able to load the product image. So let's see the location. So the location basically under folder, definitely under folder PHP, sorry, under product image. So this is under my Pasar V2 asset product images. Okay, so this is basically the location. So my Pasar V2, so we need to go back one directory. My Pasar V2. And then other folder, my Pasar V2 assets product images. Okay, so this one, assets product images. Okay, so that's basically the location. And then we have to make sure also one thing, the format of the data. This is type data, should be PNG, right? So the data type is PNG, yeah, true. This is PNG data type. So we can just use product list, because our product item or the image name basically based on the product ID. So we use the product ID.png, and then we should but we should be able to display the information. So let me just save this. We might need to restart our server, I believe, our application, because we don't have the library yet. Okay, yeah, true. You can see missing plugin. So definitely we need to stop this first and then do the reinstallation. All right, so we wait for the reinstallation for now. So F5 once again. Okay, so let's see if we manage to display the image. Right, so complete with installation, auto log in, and then let's go to the seller's page screen. Yeah, I believe the directory, this one might not be the right directory. So for form is that not found. So let me just check this one more time if this is the right directory or not for the server location. So we might need to change that. Oh no, this is not the right directory. As you can see there, it's not the right directory. Oh yeah, there's a double my password there, so no wonder. So I need to go back to the seller screen here. So this is not needed actually. Right, so we can just reload that. And then let's try that one more time. All right, so let's see what we have here. So sellers here. All right, there you go. All right, so now you have all the images displayed correctly. Okay, so we have refine, couch, TV, and fridge. So all the data basically is in here. Yeah, so there's a second part here because if you see down here, there's another sections, another flags that I use to display all the data. So might as well, I can just repeat that, but that one is just 40%. So there's a one flexible, and then we might need to have a second flexible. You can use different methods of doing this, but yeah, this is just a very simple way of so let me just put everything inside. Sorry. Okay, so we have this and then flexible here instead of 6. So we set this to 40%. So 6, 4. So that's basically the ratio that I'm looking for. And you can just add whatever data, the rest of the data that you might want from here. So this one, flexible. Okay, so 60-40 if you want to have that kind of arrangement. So yeah, you can add more data down here, whatever data, or you can increase the size of this text here. So yeah, that's basically the easy way of displaying the data. The rest, okay, one more thing that I might need to change here is that whenever we want to add new data, again, okay, so we want it to automatically refresh that. So if I press on this new product here, okay, so that basically implemented through this one load seller product, the new product, right? So new product. Okay, here go to new product. So go to new product here. So what I'm going to do, basically, I'm going to implement what we call as await. Okay, so this is just a simple trick that usually I use to automatically refresh my page. So await, implement await for this navigator when we move to the new product screen. And then once it is completed, so we can just use load product. We just recall again load product so that it will refresh again with the new data. So that's basically how I do it to refresh. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, let's see if we manage to do that. So let me just reload on that. And then let me add new product here. So wait for location, take picture. So let's see, let me try to take, this is the fifth data. So let me move around. So I'm selling this coffee table. So I'm selling this coffee table. Press OK. And then there you go. Coffee table. All right. So wooden coffee table product five, let's say like 45 ringgit, product quantity is only one, delivery is one, and this one is a lawful item, and add to the product. So when I press yes here, it will automatically refresh the item in our list here. Okay, so yeah, it's quite simple, and it will automatically load, or you can further implement, let's say like if cancel or not. Okay, but here just whenever we push, we wait for this to complete, and once we return back from the navigation, we pop out the navigation, the new product screen here, and then it will automatically call this load products, and then you should be able to be able to reload your page and then get your product here. All right, so if you go away, like to the buyer screen, no data. If you go back to the seller screen, now you have the data here. All right, so quite simple, and this is basically most of the simplest method of display the data back to uh, to 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 the screen. Okay, so I think that's all for today, and I'm going to share this later. Thank you. Bye bye.